When you're healing, recovery is not a straight line. It doesn't follow a schedule, and it definitely doesn't move at the speed we want it to. You see, healing moves in waves. One day you feel like you're finally turned the corner. You're smiling again, laughing again, maybe even feeling hopeful about the future. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, a wave crashes over you. An old memory resurfaces, a trigger shows up, a wave of sadness hits, and you find yourself wondering if you've made any progress at all. But you're not back at the beginning, that's the illusion. Just because you feel the pain again doesn't mean you haven't made progress. It means you're still healing. It means there are layers to your growth, layers that can't be rushed, skipped, or ignored. We've been taught to treat healing like a race, like something you need to hurry through, something to get over. But healing isn't something you get over, it's something you move through. Think about a physical wound, like a broken bone or a deep cut. You don't just slap a bandage on it and expect it to be better in the morning. It takes time, it takes patience, and sometimes it hurts more than it hurts less. It's the same with emotional wounds. You can't heal from heartbreak, betrayal, loss, or trauma by pretending it didn't happen. You can't force yourself to feel okay just because it's been long enough. Healing doesn't follow a calendar. What it does follow is your willingness to show up, even on the hard days, even when the tears return, even when you feel like you've taken 2 steps back. Showing up matters. Sitting with your feelings instead of pushing them away matters. Taking a breath and staying with yourself in those moments of pain, that's part of the healing. Healing isn't about pretending to be fine. It's about being real with where you are, while still believing in where you're going. Some days you'll feel strong. Other days you'll feel fragile, and both are valid. Both are part of the path. The key is to stop judging yourself for how you feel. Stop comparing your healing to someone else's. There is no one-size-fits-all. There is no universal timeline. And there's no shame in not being over it yet. If you've ever felt like you're weak because you still cry about it, or you still get anxious about it, or you still struggle to talk about it, let this be your reminder. You are not weak, you are brave. You're doing the work, whether others can see it or not. And the work doesn't always look like progress. Sometimes it looks like choosing not to numb out, choosing to rest instead of run, choosing to feel instead of shut down. You are healing every time you choose compassion over criticism, every time you give yourself permission to rest, every time you speak kindly to yourself in the tough times. So if you're in the thick of it right now, if you're somewhere between falling apart and holding it together, remember this. You're not broken, you're becoming. You're learning how to live with a deeper sense of self-awareness, strength, and resilience. And that takes time. You are allowed to heal slowly. You are allowed to revisit old wounds. You are allowed to feel better today and worse tomorrow and still be making progress. Because healing isn't linear, but every breath, every tear, every honest moment, it all adds up. And one day you'll look back and realize you didn't just survive, you transformed. Just because you're having to start over again doesn't mean you failed. Doesn't mean you've lost everything, and it definitely doesn't mean you're back at square one. You're not starting over, you're starting wiser. See, life has this way of humbling us. Sometimes our plans fall apart. Sometimes we take a risk and it doesn't work out. And sometimes we find ourselves standing in the ruins of something we believed in, wondering how we're supposed to begin again. That moment is hard and it hurts. It feels like a step backward, but it's not. Because what you carry now, the experience, the pain, the lessons, that's what makes you stronger. You didn't lose everything. You gained understanding. You gained clarity. You gained resilience. You lived through a storm, and now you know how to build stronger. You've made mistakes, and now you know what to do differently. You've experienced the cost of giving up, and that's why you won't quit this time. You're not the same person who started the first time. You are more patient, more focused, more aware, and that's the gift. That's the real starting line. You don't need to be perfect. You don't need to know every step. You just need to begin with what you've learned. Too many people walk away the moment things get hard. They see starting again as proof that they failed. But starting again with more wisdom is actually a sign of growth. It means you've matured. It means you've taken the hit and you're still willing to try. That takes courage. That takes grit. This time, you're not moving in panic. You're moving with purpose. This time, you're not hoping it works. You're building it to work. This time, you're not in the dark. You've got a light from the path you've already walked. And yes, you might still feel fear. You might still have doubts. You might still hear that voice whispering, "What if it all goes wrong again?" But here's where the truth lies, is that fear is part of the process. It means you care. Don't wait for the fear to leave. Move with it. Walk through it. Because what's the alternative? Living stuck? Living in regret? Wishing you had tried again but never actually doing it? You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need to take one honest step, then another and another. This time, you'll work smarter. This time, you'll protect your energy. This time, you'll know what really matters, and you'll let go of what doesn't. Maybe you've had to let go of something big, a dream, a relationship, a version of yourself, and that hurts, but it also clears space for something better. This is your chance to rebuild, to move forward, to rise, and you get to do it with more strength, more clarity, and more fire than ever before. So don't be ashamed to start again. Be proud. Proud that you're still standing, proud that you haven't given up, and proud that you've decided your story isn't over yet. Whenever you want something big, something meaningful, a goal, a dream, a vision of a better life, at first it's exciting. You're fired up, ready to take on the world. And then reality hits. Obstacles show up. Progress slows down. It gets harder than you thought it would be. And in that moment, you start wondering, is this even possible for me? Well, imagine climbing a mountain. When you start at the bottom, it's easy to walk. The incline is gentle. You feel strong, energized. But the higher you go, the harder it gets. The air gets thinner. Your legs burn. Your body screams at you to turn back. Or what happens when you push yourself in the gym? Your body shakes, it burns, it resists. That's not a sign to quit. That's a sign that change is happening. Growth is happening. You're breaking through limits. But unfortunately, when the resistance hits, that's where most people stop. Right there, just before the peak, just before the growth. They tell themselves it's too much, that they've gone far enough. But what if they knew that just beyond that hardest stretch was the view they'd been chasing? What if they knew that the body they've always wanted was just beyond the pain they're avoiding? Most people quit before they see the results. They stop at the very point where they're about to make the breakthrough. They assume difficulty is a sign to stop. But like the saying goes, if it were easy, everyone would do it. Everyone would be in peak shape. Everyone would be financially free. Everyone would have the view. But they don't. Because the moment when things get tough, they back off. They convince themselves it wasn't meant to be. And that's why most people stay exactly where they are. But not you. You're here because something inside of you refuses to settle. You know there's more. And if you know there's more, then quitting isn't an option. That doesn't mean just blindly pushing harder. Effort's great, but on its own, it's not enough. You need to learn, adapt, and you need to adjust. Here's another line you should know. Where there's a will, there's a way. One strategy isn't working, well then try something else. If one door doesn't open, find another. Delays are not denials, and roadblocks are not dead ends. People get stuck because they think there's only one path to success. But there are always options. You just have to be relentless enough to find them. Achievers don't succeed because it's easy. They succeed because they refuse to stop. They figure out a way in spite of the obstacles and the cries to stop. And that's exactly what you're going to do. When it feels impossible, when frustration creeps in and you start doubting yourself, remember this. You're not struggling because you're failing. You're struggling because you're growing. Because you're doing something that most people aren't willing to do. Again, if it were easy, everyone would do it. But it's not easy, and that's the point. If you want the view, you gotta make the climb. If you want the body, you gotta do the reps. So keep going. Figure it out. Find a way. You'll be glad you did. There's a great line that says, only hurt people hurt people. Have you ever had someone criticize you out of nowhere? They'll tell you that you weren't good enough, smart enough, or talented enough. Or maybe they doubted your dreams, belittled your success, or made you feel like you weren't capable. Here's the truth. It's not about you. It's about them. People project their own fears, insecurities, and self-doubt onto others. They see you chasing a dream they were too afraid to pursue. They see you growing in ways they never allowed themselves to. And instead of facing their own pain, they throw it at you. Projection is when someone takes their own feelings, things they don't want to deal with, and pushes them onto someone else. That person who calls you arrogant, they might struggle with their own confidence. The one who calls you selfish, they might feel guilty about their own lack of generosity. The one who laughs at your dreams, they might be bitter about the ones they gave up on. People don't see you as you are, they see you as they are. Here's how to handle projection. First, don't take it personally. If someone lashes out at you, understand that it's coming from their own struggles. Their words are a reflection of their reality, not yours. Second, stay grounded in your truth. Just because someone tells you something doesn't make it true. You define who you are. If someone calls you lazy, but you know you're working hard, don't let their words shake you. Third, have compassion and set boundaries. Many people don't realize they're projecting. You can choose to respond with empathy, but that doesn't mean you have to accept their negativity. Protect your peace. Fourth is keep moving forward. The more you grow, the more you'll encounter projection. People will try to pull you down because they can't handle watching you rise. Keep going anyways. At the end of the day, people will say what they want. But their fears don't have to become yours. Their doubts don't have to hold you back. Their insecurities don't have to shape your future. So let them project. Let them doubt. Let them judge. And then go prove them wrong. We've all been there, sitting on an idea, a dream, or a goal, waiting for the stars to align, for everything to be just right. And we tell ourselves, I'll start when I'm ready. I'll start when it's perfect. But let me tell you something, if you're waiting for perfect, you'll be waiting forever. I remember my first attempts, my early videos, the rough drafts, the projects I now look back on and cringe. The sound was bad, my delivery was awkward. I stumbled over my words and over myself. But here's what matters. I started. Because starting isn't about being perfect. It's about being willing. Willing to show up as you are. Willing to try. Willing to learn and improve as you go. That's how greatness begins, not with perfection, but with action. We've all seen someone who's incredible at what they do, like a speaker or an athlete, an entrepreneur, and we think, wow, they were born for this. But what we don't see are the messy beginnings, their struggles, the awkward starts they had, the years of trial and error before they ever got good. No one starts as a master, no one. Every great success story begins the same way, with a decision to begin, imperfectly, boldly, and sometimes clumsily. You see, starting is where the magic happens. It's where you take an idea that's living in your head and breathe life into it. Starting creates momentum. It builds confidence. It moves you forward, even if the steps are small. But if you wait, if you tell yourself, I'll start when I'm ready, you're robbing yourself of a chance to grow. You're letting fear win. And here's the thing about fear, it's a liar. Fear tells you that you're not good enough, that you'll fail, that people will judge you. But fear forgets to mention that the only way to get better is to begin. So let this be a reminder. Start now. Start scared. Start messy. Start imperfect. Write the book, even if the first words are awful. Post the video, even if the editing isn't perfect. Step on stage, even if your voice shakes. Launch the business, even if you're not sure how it will go. Because perfection is a myth, and progress comes with action. You adjust, you improve, you get better along the way. It's like the sculptor working with a rough block of stone. If they waited for the perfect vision of the final masterpiece before touching the tools, nothing would ever be created. Instead, they chip away at it, bit by bit, until beauty emerges. Well, you're the sculptor. Your dream is the masterpiece, but you can't shape it until you pick up the tools and get to work. Stop waiting. Stop overthinking. The starting line is right in front of you, and the only thing you need to do is take one step. That's it. One small, imperfect step forward. Because in a year from now, you won't regret the mistakes you made while trying. You'll regret not starting sooner. So whatever it is that's been living inside you, start now. Your future self will thank you for the courage to begin. Picture yourself driving down the road and someone asks you, how many red cars did you see today? You'd probably pause, shrug, and say, I didn't notice any. But why didn't you? Because red cars weren't on your radar. You weren't paying attention to them. But if I told you I'd give you $50 for every red car you spot, suddenly red cars would pop out everywhere. You'd be amazed at how many there are, zipping by, parked in driveways, or lined up at stoplights. And it's not that the red cars suddenly appeared out of nowhere. They were always there. You just weren't looking for them. This is the red car theory, and it's a perfect example of how we view opportunities in life. Most of us go through our days, our weeks, maybe even our entire lives, not noticing the opportunities that surround us. Why? Because we're not looking for them. But what if you trained your mind to be on the lookout for opportunities? Just as you would those red cars. Imagine what you'd start to see. Opportunities like those red cars are everywhere. They're in the people you meet, the books you read, the challenges you face, and the quiet moments when ideas spark. But too often we're so focused on what's familiar, what's comfortable, or what's routine that we completely miss them. Our attention is elsewhere, so the chances and possibilities stay hidden in plain sight. See, when you start looking for something specific, your brain zeroes in on it. This is because our minds have a unique system called the reticular activating system, which filters what we notice based on what we focus on. When you direct your focus, you're telling your brain what's important to you. So if you start to actively look for opportunities, your brain will begin to reveal them. Just like with the red cars, you'll start seeing opportunities everywhere because now you're primed to notice them. Many of us think opportunities are rare or reserved for the lucky few, but luck often has little to do with it. Luck favors the prepared and the aware. People who seem lucky are often those who've trained themselves to notice potential everywhere. They're open, curious, and willing to see things others overlook. So what if you adopted this mindset? What if you became one of those people who are constantly on the lookout, scanning your surroundings, your experiences, your conversations, for anything that could lead to growth, success, or a new adventure? The truth is, opportunity is a mindset. It's the choice to see each moment as a door that could open, each problem as something you can solve, and each day as a new chance to go after what you want. But it requires you to be proactive. It requires you to set your intentions, to tell your mind, this is what I'm looking for. And just like the red cars, once you're aware, you'll be astonished by what you find. Make the switch and decide that starting today, you're going to start searching for opportunities. Every morning tell yourself, I'm going to be open to whatever good comes my way today. Whether it's a conversation that leads to a new idea, a challenge that pushes you to grow, or even a book that inspires you. Opportunity could be anywhere. You just have to be ready to see it. Don't be the person who goes through life missing out on what's right in front of them. Be the one who sees what others don't. Because once you start looking for those red cars, once you start looking for opportunity, you'll realize they've been right there all along, just waiting for you to notice. I've got a question for you, and you may or may not be able to answer it right away, but here it is. What's your gift? What's your talent or skill that you've been blessed with that separates you from all the others? I believe that we've all been gifted with something that makes us unique. We all hold something innate within us that is our true being. So what's your gift? Have you clearly identified what it is? If not, then maybe that's why life doesn't feel quite right. You've been given a blessing and you're not exercising it. You're not growing into your true potential simply because you haven't identified your true calling. And I dare say that most people are living a life without understanding what is really meant for them. They've been following the crowd, but in doing so, they've left the path that's true to themselves. What's your gift? Maybe you've known for a while. You saw it or you felt it a long time ago, and that's great. If so, next question. Are you maximizing your gift? How much time are you dedicating to fulfilling that blessing and bringing it out into the world? You see, happiness is at the corner of pleasure and purpose. Doing what we love to do while pursuing a greater goal. When we use our gifts, we are living the life we were meant to live. And when we live with purpose, we are at our most content. Think of the gifted athlete who dismisses their abilities to become, let's say, a banker. Not that there's anything wrong with working in the financial industry. For many people, working with numbers and chasing the dollar, well, that's their gift. But for the athlete, he or she was built for another life. And I understand that life sometimes brings responsibilities. They force us to put aside our wants for our needs. I get that. The need for income to keep a roof over our head or food on the table, and I'm not dismissing what are facts of life. But that athlete, to be content and fulfilled, he or she would be better suited in the sports industry. If not the athlete on the field or the pitch or the rink, then maybe they're the coach or the referee, the manager or the scout. If you were made for athletics, then what are you doing in finance? Here's another way to look at it. If money was removed from the equation, what would you be doing right now? How would you fill your days? When pondering this question, we start to reveal our passions, and somewhere in our passions we'll find our gift. If you want to be truly content, it requires you to use your gifts to their fullest potential. This explains why so many, at the end of their lives, regret the decisions not to follow their passions. They've lived a life without purpose. They had gifts, and they wasted them. Note earlier that I said happiness is at the corner of pleasure and purpose. It wasn't at the corner of money and things. It's been proven over and over again that things do not bring us pleasure. When we're younger, we may believe this, but as we grow in age, what we really want are the experiences and purpose. So find your gift, find your purpose, and you'll find your truest self.